Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the IswuttPodcast. My name is Michael Graham, and I will be your host for this, the very first inaugural IsWutt Quickie. So the idea behind this is instead of doing a full-length episode, so in case you don't have 30, 45, an hour long to listen to an episode, I want to throw something together that is between 10 and 15 minutes. It's quick, it's fun, it's informative. We get some information out there that hopefully you will not already know. If you do, congratulations, you're well informed on this specific subject. If you don't, well, you're welcome. So once again, my name is Michael, and I'm going to be your host for this, once again, first episode of the IsWutt Quickie series. So I do want to throw out the invitation for anybody who is out there listening. Feel free to follow up with me on Instagram at IswuttPodcast, Twitter, IswuttPodcast. You can go to Facebook.com/IswuttPodcast, all over the place. One thing that I just started doing is I really do want to get a secondary mic set up so that way I can start having some fun and exciting guests in and do some interview format shows. So I am saving up for that. So if you would be interested at all in potentially giving us a donation, you can go to anchor.fm/iswutt. Would be very, very helpful. We do accept donations there, so that way we can try to build out our studio here, and then I can start having some people in and actually hosting them as guests. Would be a lot of fun. So with all of that said, now let's go ahead and let's get right to it. Today's August 2nd, 2020. And quite frankly, 2020 has not been the best year. However, there are some silver linings with this year that is full of not necessarily the best news. And one of them came today. I have been so excited to talk about this. So we had the first privately owned ship come down from the International Space Station and actually entered the atmosphere, successfully landed. Everyone was safe. So today on August 2nd, 2020, we can mark the day that the SpaceX Crew Dragon returned with the astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley. After being at the International Space Station for 2 months, they took off on May 30th of 2020, and it's the first commercial spaceship to actually send astronauts up into space. So I was watching an interview while they were preparing for Bob and Doug to come back down into the atmosphere, I was watching an interview with the International Space Station commander named Chris Cassidy, and he was saying that they would have to pay attention to the weather forecast every 6 hours in the few days that are coming up on them leaving the International Space Station and coming back into the atmosphere, because right now off of the coast of Florida, there's a hurricane going. The hurricane, I think, is called SEAS. I don't want to say that wrong too many times, so I'm just going to say the hurricane. So they were saying that this hurricane might actually affect the landing, so they've had to be very intentional on whether or not they were going to be taking off from the International Space Station and coming all the way back down. So they need to pay very close attention, and for the reason why is because once the Crew Dragon capsule undocks from the International Space Station, they only have 48 hours worth of oxygen. So they can't undock and sit there and wait, trying to pinpoint the perfect time for them to be entering the atmosphere. Because after all, it does take them 19 hours to go from the International Space Station back into the atmosphere and touch down. So it's not like a quick journey. It's not a 20, 30-minute type of affair or deal. It takes a long time. So once they undock, they only have 48 hours, so they had to be very mindful and intentional on undocking and sending these guys, Bob and Doug, back down to Earth. So the Crew Dragon actually undocked on August 1st. So this was yesterday, August 1st, 2020, and they successfully re-entered the atmosphere today, August 2nd, 2020. And it's the first American splashdown in 45 years. It was at 2:48 East Coast, Eastern Standard Time. Very cool. So as I had mentioned before, it took them 19 hours, and they landed in the Gulf of Mexico right off of the coast of Florida near Pensacola. So everybody is safe and sound. So cool. Very happy for these guys to come back and be safe, because this really does speak to everything that humans can accomplish when we have the right people in the right places at the right time doing the right things. Right? So what's next on the horizon? Is this going to be trips to Mars? I know Elon Musk had mentioned that, and SpaceX had mentioned that. Could be cool. But in the meantime, let's focus on the success of today. So during re-entry, this Crew Dragon capsule reached speeds up to 17,000 miles an hour. And I think about 17,000 miles an hour. Most people on planet Earth have never even gone 170 miles an hour. It's crazy to think about that. The temperatures on that capsule while coming into the atmosphere got upwards of 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Those are really the extremes of what a human body can handle. When you think about it, I know now this capsule is really taking a bunch of the kind of the brunt force of this, but we're not designed to go that fast. We're not designed to be in a capsule that gets that hot. One of the commentators from NASA said today that once you really hit the atmosphere, it feels almost as if you're getting into a car crash when you're inside these. But, Bob and Doug, they're back. They're safe. I'm sure they're going to go through a few days worth of physical therapy and make sure that they're okay, readjust to the gravity here on Earth, let their bones, and their muscles really adjust. But congratulations to Elon Musk, SpaceX. Congratulations to NASA, everybody working there. Congratulations to Bob and Doug. Come back down, get to see their families. How cool. I wanted to say what's up to that because, hell yeah, American ingenuity. I can't wait to see what we're going to do in the future. Anyways, I'll say what's up to that. We're going to come back shortly, and I'm going to have a couple fun facts about SpaceX, just to kind of fill you in as to who this company is and what they're all about. So we'll be back shortly. I'll say what's up to that. All right, very good. Welcome back. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm gonna take a couple minutes here really quick, and I want to go considering everything that SpaceX and NASA has just done. I want to spend just a few minutes with you and go over some pretty fun and interesting facts that I was able to find. So, let's just cover some of these really quick because it's actually very fun. Some of these guys seem to not just get a bunch of work done and do some groundbreaking things, but they seem to have fun doing it. So, obviously, SpaceX is going to be the first private company to send a spacecraft to the ISS, to the International Space Station. Previous to SpaceX doing this, the only two, or I guess three entities, if you will, are the United States of America, China, and Russia. So when you take three of the biggest powers in the world and you look and you say, well, a private company was able to do this, very, very nice that this private business enterprise joins that elite group of entities that have sent people to the International Space Station. The Falcon 9 rocket, the rocket that they use whenever they launch anything into space, is actually named after the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. So the 9, the only reason they say Falcon 9 is because that actually notes the amount of engines that are inside of that rocket. So those Star Wars fans, I think that's a pretty aptly named rocket. So the Dragon, which is the capsule that the individuals or the cargo will actually sit in, the SpaceX Dragon capsule, on the very first test flight, they flew up just a wheel of cheese as a nod to the Monty Python flying circus. So like I said, these guys tend to have fun with what they're doing. And also, this is pretty good. This is a pretty good one. So the barge that the SpaceX, when they come back down and they want to land the rocket on the barge is called, just read the instructions. That's pretty, like I said, these guys seem like they have a lot of fun doing it, and they're breaking ground and advancing humanity when it comes to us in space. the SpaceX is actually trying to do something not just in space, but for everybody here that's on Earth. Their goal is to build these broadband satellites and put them up in space and enable wireless internet access for the entire planet. When you think about revolutionary kind of stuff, I always think Elon Musk and what he's doing with SpaceX and with Neuralink and all of his different companies, I always feel like he is really the real embodiment of Tony Stark Iron Man. So here's another fun fact is SpaceX actually almost ran out of money. So when they were initially trying to launch the Falcon 1, the Falcon 1 failed to reach the orbit 3 out of the first 5 attempt launches. So they finally got it on the third launch out of the 5 that they were attempting. And they were saying that if they wouldn't have got into orbit 1 through 5, they would have just ran out of money and they couldn't have carried on. So fortunately, they were able to get into orbit, prove everybody wrong. Hey, we're doing it. So that just let them continue to be now where they are, where we're actually sending people up and to and from the International Space Station in a private company. Very cool. And then, so the way SpaceX has these rockets set is once they actually launch, it's all automated. They don't have to flip these switches and press these buttons with a timing thing. It's all automated, and they have touch screens that are available. So Elon Musk said that he doesn't want to make SpaceX a public company until what he's calling the Mars Colonial Transporter, MCT. He wants to make that go to and from Mars, ferrying people back and forth regularly, and then he'll consider making SpaceX a public company. But his goal ultimately is to take that Mars Colonial Transporter, the MCT, and he wants to be able to send people to and from Mars for as little as $500,000 per person. And I know that sounds like a ton of money to those of us who don't have a ton of money. But if you look at the multi-millions of dollars that is synced into not only the engineering and the research and the timing and staffing and physically building all of these things, that is a drop in the bucket. But I think that's the idea behind SpaceX having reusable rockets and materials, so that way they don't have to build something brand new every time. They can just make sure nothing is broken, do some basic maintenance, fill it up with gas, fuel, what have you, and let's go literally to the stars. So those are some pretty fun facts I think about SpaceX. I actually just got a really cool NASA jacket that I bought in the mail today. It just delivered today, so I'm really excited about that. I think that us going into space is really one of the last things that we are going to see in our lifetimes humans do is maybe get to Mars. And I can just imagine what's going to be 10, 15, 100 years from now, how we're going to be, whether it's not here at all, or is humanity going to actually reach to the stars and begin to colonize and spread out that way? Could be really the ultimate thing that decides the fate of humanity is whether or not we can get off of our rock and go elsewhere. But anyways, I think that is good. This is episode 1 of the IsWuTT Quickie. If you are interested in reaching out to me, you can always reach out to me on Instagram. You can reach out to me on Twitter. It's IsWuttPodcast, very simple. Facebook.com/IsWuttPodcast. I just built a page. If you like what I'm doing, I'm trying to save up money to get a setup where I can have multiple people and start doing interviews. That costs money. It takes time. I promise I'm saving for that. If you're interested in donating, you can go to anchor.fm/IsWutt. That would be fantastic. I am taking those donations, and I have a separate account that I'm just going to be using that to save money. I do appreciate you guys coming by and listening. I hope you learned a little bit here on this episode of the IsWuTT Quickie number 1, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you. I'll say what's up to that.